So if you're anything like me, you love the look of real film. From the textured grain to that nice softened bloom look to just the organic imperfections of film. But shooting actual film can be very costly, time consuming, and not always the most practical. And we may not even have access to film cameras. And that's where Dehancer comes in. Dehancer is a film emulation plugin for Final Cut Pro, DaVinci Resolve, and Premiere Pro. And this is not just some filter or a LUT either. This simulates the chemical process from different film stocks, halation, bloom, film grain, and so much more. So in this video, I'm gonna break this down step by step in Final Cut Pro to show you how you can also transform your digital footage to look more like film. And as a quick disclaimer, they simply reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to test out their plugin for a month and give an honest review, and that's what you're going to get today. So with all that out of the way, let's get right into Final Cut Pro. So I am in Final Cut Pro right now. I already have my footage loaded up. So we're gonna go to our first clip, and this is me unveiling the Dodge Charger, taking the cover off. So we're gonna color grade this. We're gonna go over to our effects panel, which is right here. And we're gonna drag Dehancer Pro onto the adjustment layer. And this is going to pull up all the tools in the inspector. And by default, you'll see that it already applies different effects, but we are going to toggle these all off and expand every single window to make this easier. So let's start off with the input tab here. So this is where you're gonna select your camera profile, whatever camera that you're shooting on, and whatever log profile that you're shooting with. This is where you're going to select that so you can get the most accurate looking image. So by default, it's set to Rec 709. So I'm gonna go down here, I'm gonna select my Fujifilm, and I'm using the Fujifilm X-H2S, and I'm shooting in F-Log2. So right off the bat, we already have a pretty good looking image, but we also have controls for exposure compensation. So if the exposure, we're gonna bring up our scopes actually, to see how our exposure is looking. I don't want to overexpose this and then clip the highlights, but I also don't want my blacks completely blown out. So we're gonna go in and we're going to adjust the exposure just a little bit, not too much. Maybe adjust the temperature. I think I kind of want to keep this a little bit cool. Let's see. The trick is just playing around with this, doing micro adjustments, trying to get it just right. We also have tint compensation, which we're not going to touch. The next tab is the film tab. And now this is where you get to select your film stock that you would like to use. Now I have not tried a lot of these film stocks. I tend to stick with the Kodak or the Fujicolor film stocks. So for this tutorial, we are going to check out the Kodak Ektar 100. Next, we're going to move over to the Film Developer tab, which allows you to control a little bit of your contrast and your color saturation. I think I want to add a little bit of contrast, so we're going to slide this to the right. I do want to get some of the details out of the grille of the car. I don't want it to be completely blown out, so I think I'm going to adjust this ever so slightly. And then I'm going to also add in a little bit of color. I want that blue paint to really pop. The next tab is film compression. Now this is actually a lifesaver for some scenarios where if you're familiar with film has a really nice highlight roll off, and this really simulates that kind of look. So if we enable this, you're going to see that it will retain some of the more details in our highlights. And we can adjust the strength of this by sliding the impact slider. You can see that it's changing it gets brighter. This just brings back more of the detail in the highlights, and we can adjust our white point. I'm going to drag this. I might actually keep this about standard, I think. And then you have tonal range and color density, where we're not going to mess around with that. The next tab is the expand tab. And now this is where you can control your black and your white points. So if we drag this slider all the way to the left, it's going to give us a faded look, which might be nice in certain scenarios, but if we drag this to the right, it's going to completely crush our blacks, which we don't want. So again, you're just going to want to do some micro adjustments. I think I do want to bring the, Now I'm gonna drag this a little bit to the left. Again, I don't wanna lose all the detail in the grill area. And the white points, again, if we drag all the way to the left, it's going to completely blow out our highlights, which looks so terrible. And if we drag this all the way to the right, it's going to look very pale looking, I guess. I don't really know. So I'm actually gonna bring this over to the left a little bit. And just like that, it's looking pretty good so far. So next up we have the print tab. And this basically simulates the color and contrast characteristics of film print stocks. And it's good for adding that final layer of film light contrast and color separation. I typically mess around with the Fujifilm 3513 print film, the Kodak 2383, and definitely mostly the Kodak Endura glossy paper. So we're gonna toggle some of these, make sure you enable that. We're gonna toggle through some of these so you can get an idea of which each one looks like. And I think we're gonna go with the Kodak Endura glossy paper. And again, you have the option to adjust the exposure of that. I'm going to keep this just like that. Maybe add a little bit of no, I'm gonna keep that about the same. And then you can control your saturation as well. The next tool is the color head tool. And this is great for fine tuning skin tones and balancing overall color casts. Basically, it's like split toning if you're familiar with like editing in Lightroom or whatnot. So this gives you the option to play around with different colors. So if I want a little bit more yellow to this, or if I want to add a little bit more blue, I can slide this left and right. Same with magenta and green. I actually like a little bit of a green in there. Or no, you know what? I don't know. It's a balancing act of trying to figure out what looks good. I think I'm going to add a little bit of red to this. You can also click this checkbox and you can adjust just your shadow tones. Or you can also do your midtones, showing you what the effect looks like. So I'm gonna bring all these back to 0 because I don't really think I need to adjust anything with this. Next tool is film grain, and this is pretty self-explanatory. It just adds that textured grain to your image. So you already have some preset profiles in here from 65mm, 35mm, 16mm, and 8mm in 3 different ISO ranges from ISO 50, ISO 250, and ISO 500. Now, when we get into 8mm, the grain is a lot rougher and more pronounced, and if you go to 65, it's a lot more finer. You don't notice it as much. But if none of these options really work for you, you can actually go into custom, and now you have full control over your size, the amount, every option that you can think of is in here to fine tune for the exact look that you're going for. I typically like to use the 65mm ISO 50 because I don't like it to be too strong. That seems to be the one that works for me the most. For this example, I'm actually going to switch to 35mm ISO 50 so that you can actually see the effect of the grain a little bit better. The next tool is probably one of my favorite tools in here, which is halation. Now that is that reddish orange glow that you get in highlights or a lot of like high contrast parts of your image. And you also, just like grain, you have other options. 8mm is going to be the strongest one. 65mm is going to be on the lighter side. And then you also have no remjet options, which really exaggerate the look of the halation. So we're gonna select 35mm Super 35, and you can check this mask mode box here. And this is going to give you an idea of where it's going to apply the halation. So if we want to go to 8mm Super 8, it's going to be a lot more pronounced. This shot, we're gonna keep this at 35mm Super 35. It just adds a little bit of subtle halation to the chrome in the bumper, which is what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for it to be super exaggerated like this is currently. So we're gonna keep this at 35mm. The next option is bloom. Now, if you've ever used a diffusion filter or a mist filter, this simulates the same look by blooming your highlights and giving you that nice soft glow and also softening up your image, which is really nice. I shoot with mist diffusion filters almost all the time, so I'm probably not gonna use this as much, but if I'm not using a diffusion filter, I can go into here and it will apply a softened look. And again, you can go into mask mode and see where exactly it's applying the bloom. So this is what it looks like with the 16mm. And we're going to enable this, and you can see that it's just going to add a nice subtle glow to it. But for this example, I'm not going to use it. The next one is film damage. Now with film, it's very normal to get dirt, dust, hair on film, and this just simulates the look of that. And I'm gonna stick with 35mm. So the next tool is film breath, and this simulates subtle exposure and color shifts that occur naturally in real film rolls. Again, you have presets, but you can customize it to whatever it is that you want, whatever your taste is. You have the option to do that. I'm gonna keep this at 35mm again. So with gate weave, as the film is getting pulled through whatever it's getting pulled through, there is going to be subtle movements in the way that the film is being pulled through. And this simulates that little bit of shakiness or that movement to really sell the look. So if I play this back, you're gonna see, you might see that the image shakes a little bit. And again, you have options to customize it, or you do have presets in here. The next couple options, we're not gonna really dive too deep into them, but I do wanna talk about the overscan, which is something that I've used in a lot of other projects in the past. So we're gonna enable this, and this is just going to give you that film reel look, or I like to use the Super 8 look. I like to use this in memory videos, or if I'm doing a documentary and I wanna show like times past, I love having the option to be able to add this kind of look in here. And there are plenty of different options, plenty of customization that you can do. I haven't really played around with this a whole lot. I'm just gonna cycle through some of the options. But it's really nice to have this feature because it is something that I have used in the past. And this is the best experience that I have seen with this feature. So just know that you have the option to do this in the program. So we're gonna move into our final piece of footage in Final Cut Pro. This is going to take advantage of some of the really nice halation effects and bloom effects. So let's drag Dehancer onto this adjustment layer. But again, we're gonna go through this a little bit quicker since we already have a baseline of what most of the tools do and how they function. We're gonna check everything. Okay. So again, we're gonna go select our camera profile, Fujifilm, X-H2S, and F-Log2. I want this image to be a little bit darker, so I may bring the exposure down just a tad. I think I want this to be a little bit warmer. I think I'm going to actually incorporate a little bit of a green tone to this. For the film profile, I'm actually going to change it up and go with the Fujicolor Superia 1600, which just adds this nice darker depth to the image like this. We're going to go to Film Developer. I think the contrast is looking pretty good. I don't think I really want to add any more, so I'm going to keep this normal. We're going to go to Film Compression. I actually want to keep a little bit of the harshness in the light. I don't want to soften it up too much. And I really want to emphasize the glow of the light. So we're gonna go to the Expand tab. Let's see what we want to do here. I think I don't want a faded look. I do want to bring the black point over to the right a little bit. Again, with the white point, I'm not really sure. I think I'm gonna keep the white point more like in the middle. For the print profile, again, I'm going to select the Kodak Endura glossy paper, and I'm actually gonna bring up the exposure of this a little bit. It tends to get a little bit darker, so that looks pretty good. I'm gonna play around with the color head a little bit to see if I want any interesting color shifts. I may actually bring this a little bit closer to the blue. Definitely don't want a little bit green in there. I'm gonna bring this red slider over just a little bit, not too much. Definitely gonna add some film grain, but I think I want a little bit more texture, so I'm gonna go for the 35mm ISO 250. Now this is where the halation really shines. So I'm gonna enable this, and because I have a lot of metallic surfaces and a lot of hard edges in here, including the light source itself, you're really gonna notice the halation effect in this. So we're going to enable that, and I think for this, I'm going to try the Super 35 No Rem Jet, but I think I want it a little bit stronger. I'm going to do the 16mm. I really want that nice glow. Now we can go to the mask mode. Again, I think I still want it a little bit stronger, but not overbearing. I think that's a really cool look. I'm gonna try it without the Remjet. Okay, I'm gonna go with the no Remjet because I really like that halation in this shot with the metallic objects. I think it just really has an interesting look to it. Because I already shot this with the V&D Black Mist filter, I'm not going to enable bloom, but I will show you what it looks like. So we're gonna uncheck that. I'm going to add some film damage. Again, I'm gonna keep it at 35mm, something subtle. I'm going to add in a little bit of film breath. We're gonna actually play this back. Yes, all right, I'm definitely gonna keep the film breath in. I'm gonna leave gate weave unchecked. I'm not going to use that. And again, overscan and vignetting, I'm not going to enable that. And now we have a really good looking image of this, and we can toggle this on and off so you can see what the effect really does to this image. So that is the F-Log2 straight out of camera, and this is our final image. I am going to show you the clips with just the input selected, and then I'm going to show you the same clip with the effects added for both shots. So that is a quick step-by-step demonstration of how to use Dehancer in Final Cut Pro and how it really does transform your image to look and feel like film. And I have used a lot of other tools to achieve this kind of look, but nothing really comes close to the amount of control that I have in Dehancer. As a quick bonus, this has completely changed my mobile workflow, but I've been using the Dehancer mobile app as well, and has been a complete game changer for editing my Apple log footage on my phone, for making any kind of short form content or reels or TikToks or YouTube shorts. It has been a game changer. So I'm gonna demonstrate how to use this in the mobile app version, and this has all the same tools as the desktop version. So let's check it out. So right now we are in Dehancer on my iPhone 16 Pro, and I have a piece of footage loaded up that I shot a couple days ago in Apple Log from the Blackmagic camera app. So we have our footage here, we have our source set to Apple Log, and I think I want to adjust the exposure compensation ever so slightly, just a little bit. And then we're gonna go to our film tabs. I'm gonna leave temperature alone. Actually, no, I'm gonna add a little bit of warmth to this. Now for my film stock, I'm going to select the Fuji Color Pro 400H. We can drag this slider. It doesn't change it a whole lot, but I think it's fine. We're gonna go to developer. I'm going to add a little bit of contrast to this image. I wanna get more of the table a little bit darker. And then I'm going to actually take away some of the color, because if I really boost this, my hand looks awful. So we're gonna bring the color boost down just a tad. I'm gonna come over here to film compression. I want to soften up the highlights on the plates in the background. And again, we can drag this to see the effect. We can adjust our white points. I'm gonna leave that right there. We're gonna go to our expand tab. I'm gonna play with my black points. I think I want to bring this to the right just a tad. See where I want my whites. I think I'm going to actually leave my whites where they were. We're gonna cycle through the print profiles. I'm gonna go try the Kodak Endura glossy paper. Try this. I think I'm going to pick the 2383 print film. I'm gonna bring up the exposure of this. Now I think what I'm gonna do is I'm going to actually bring down my contrast a little bit, because I don't like how my hand is a little bit darker. So we're gonna bring that down. I'm also going to bring down my black point just a tad. And we're going to color head. I think I want to add, I think I want to add a little bit of yellow to this, because When I shot this, it was just around golden hour, so I want a little bit of warmth in this shot. So I'm gonna add a little bit of yellow to it. Let's see what the red, I'm gonna add some red, not a whole lot, just a little bit. We're gonna add some film grain. I'm gonna go to 35mm ISO 50. I'm gonna drag this down just a tad. For the halation, I'm just gonna keep this very subtle. I'm gonna go 35mm Super 35, and you can amplify this. I'm gonna probably keep it around 70. Bloom, I'm going to just bring this a little bit down. I was using a black mist filter for this, but I do want a little bit more bloom, but I'm just gonna bring it all the way down just to add a little bit more subtlety to it. We're gonna add some film damage. I think I wanna bring the film damage just down, but to -10, around there. And then the film breath, we are going to keep, let's try it at 100. Play it back. I think it looks pretty good. Yeah. So we're gonna play it back one more time so you can see what it looks like. And then we can go into here, we can export this. We have all of our frame rate options. You can even export to 8 frames per second for a more jittery, real film look from a Super 8 camera. So, but because I shot this in 30 frames, I'm going to export this at 30 frames per second at 100 megabytes per second in 4K video quality, and then we'll hit confirm. And depending on how many edits you use, this will take a little bit longer. So this is going to take about 12 seconds for me. And then once this finishes up, it'll be in our camera roll, and then we can start making short form content with it. I love being able to just color grade my Apple log footage straight on my phone whenever I want to. So that's gonna do it for me today. I hope you guys really enjoyed this tutorial. I honestly don't have a lot of negative things to say about Dehancer. There's a lot of things about this that I like, and this is not the first time I've heard of Dehancer. I've heard of this program before, but this is the first time that I've ever had a chance to try it out. And I'm really enjoying it. It's really adding just a little extra style to my videos, and it fits the look that I like to shoot. I shoot Fujifilm cameras and I shoot with the film recipes, and this is a great way to really further enhance my videos, and I really am enjoying this plugin. And again, if you want to try Dehancer for yourself, I have a code in the description below that will give you 10% off any purchase, with the exception of the mobile app version, because that is subscription based only. But if you really enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to the channel, and thank you to Dehancer for allowing me to test out your product. And as always, I'll see you guys next time.